that's considered the marketing savior for the sport.
So many people were also painting her out to be the problem. She could never do enough. She could never speak out.
Caitlin Clark is becoming a game changer for the sport, but instead of support, she's faced with constant criticism. No matter what she does, it's never enough. Some WNBA players are upset over her big contract offer from a European team, thinking they deserve bigger paychecks themselves, despite having longer careers in the league. The game is tough, and Caitlin is helping to elevate the league. But at the same time, it's clear she can't be treated like a rookie forever. The reality is, Caitlin's move to Europe could change everything for the WNBA. As the highest-paid player in the game, she will finally get the recognition she deserves, in a league that values her skill, without the
what it is. The quality of basketball may have been up to snuff, and you had somebody as popular as Cheryl Swoops, who had her own signature shoe, had to deal with Nike and all of this other stuff. But the bottom line is, very few people get
she faces at home. Let's face it, basketball quality has evolved, but for years, the WNBA has struggled to get the attention it deserves. Even legendary players like Cheryl Swoops had their own signature shoes but still couldn't draw the crowds. So, why should Caitlin stay in a—
Oh, I'm sorry. You poked me in the eye. You're a 8-year-old. You did. Did you do it on purpose? I did not poke you in the eye.
After the news about her possible move, Caitlin's teammate, Nalissa Smith, was seen laughing with DJ Carrington over a viral incident where Caitlin was poked in the eye. Instead of standing by her teammate, Nalissa didn't show any support. This kind of treatment leaves Caitlin isolated, even within her own team. When people saw—
hold on, man, this woman is booed up with the girl that poked Caitlin Clark in the eye. They're making videos making fun of Caitlin Clark in the eye poke. What is the indie?
Caitlin's team didn't come to her defense. Instead, they posted highlights from Smith's season, showing no sign of solidarity with Clark. This leaves Caitlin with even more reason to take the European offer. Opposing players clearly don't want her in the WNBA, and her teammates are mocking her, not supporting her. Maybe it's time for Caitlin to take her talents abroad and leave the WNBA to regret it. Once they realize what they've lost, they'll be begging her to return. Imagine if Caitlin publicly—
Caitlin, in every post-game press conference, she came out and talked about the kind of hateful comments that she was getting. If she came out and told everybody the reason why she has personal security that goes with her every single place, it's a lot. And so it's not just Caitlin Clark fans or Indiana Fever fans. It is not
hate she's been receiving. If she spoke out about the security she needs just to stay safe, maybe people would start to understand the real toll this takes on her. It's not just fans on social media, there's a deeper issue here. Caitlin's move to Europe isn't just another contract, it's a glaring reminder of the differences in opportunities between top players in the WNBA and those who are treated like stars overseas. Caitlin Clark's rise in the basketball world has stirred emotions within the league, and it's easy to see why. Despite being a newcomer to professional basketball, Caitlin has already attracted offers from international teams, offers that even established stars like A'ja Wilson haven't received, despite years of dominance in the WNBA. Wilson and other top players have not seen the same lucrative opportunities, and Caitlin's ability to draw attention highlights a gap that's frustrating longtime players who feel overlooked by both the league and international teams. For A'ja Wilson, it's not just about Caitlin getting a European contract, it's the bigger message that this move sends. A'ja, a former MVP, has always believed that such a title should come with the best opportunities, both in contracts and recognition. But now, she's seeing Caitlin, a player with far less experience, getting offers that players like her should be getting. A'ja and others feel that there are players who've laid the foundation and deserve recognition and reward. The frustration runs deep because it highlights a harsh reality: skill and accomplishment don't always translate to financial success in the WNBA. Caitlin's college games were packed with fans eager to see her play, but despite being the MVP, A'ja didn't draw the same crowds in the WNBA. This discrepancy
that deserves shine as well.
Here's what we're going to do. Are they playing now?
Here's
what we're going to do. Are they playing now?
We don't have Andrea.
Remember, you got
we don't have any of the women, Chanae. They'll come back on. We'll revisit this conversation gladly.
That the animosity between Caitlin Clark and DJ Carrington isn't just about basketball. Their history reached a boiling point during the infamous eye poke incident, which left Caitlin with a black eye. Instead of showing remorse, Carrington mocked Caitlin, intensifying the tension. This wasn't a one-off event, it reflects a deeper resentment that Carrington seems to have towards Caitlin. And when it comes to Nalissa Smith, it's clear she's been taking advantage of Caitlyn's fame.
The reason 12 million people are watching ESPN for a game, if that game was on CBS, they probably would have had 25, 30 million people.
I'll pick a few years ago, but wouldn't be a household name if she weren't playing alongside Caitlyn. Yet, despite her success, Smith has shown no gratitude or respect, even laughing when Caitlyn was mocked by Carrington. Carrington's resentment may stem from Caitlyn's rise as the face of women's basketball. While players like Carrington have yet to get that level of recognition, Caitlyn is now the one who's commanding attention on a global stage, and it's clear not everyone in the league is happy about it. DJ Carrington, a talented player in her own right, hasn't reached the same level of fame or success as Caitlin Clark, and that's created a sense of bitterness. This feeling was only made
on any of the other 11 teams. She was the second overall pick 2 or 3 years ago in the WNBA draft. Decent player, but no one would know. She played with Caitlin Clark. People know her name. She has no gratitude. She has no respect. She can't tell her girlfriend.
Overlooked in favor of someone who, in her eyes, hasn't yet paid the same dues. Caitlyn's ability to produce the most watched WNBA games in over 2 decades speaks volumes. Before Caitlin Clark, the WNBA was far less popular. Sure, it was growing in popularity over the past few years, but 3 years ago, it wasn't top of mind for many fans. The truth is, Caitlyn has brought a new level of attention to the league, and it's clear that not everyone is happy about it. What's particularly troubling about Carrington's behavior is the way she seems to take pleasure in Caitlyn's misfortunes. Rather than apologizing for the injury,
the most watched WNBA games in over 2 decades. What does that tell you? That tells you that before Caitlin Clark came along, it wasn't nearly as popular. It doesn't mean it wasn't growing in popularity over the last 2 to 3 years. But 3 years ago, WNBA was an afterthought.
Goes beyond just professional rivalry, it's personal. This kind of behavior shows clear resentment and disregard for Caitlyn's success. Nalissa Smith, too, has aligned herself with Carrington in showing hostility toward Caitlyn. After the eye poke incident, Nalissa was seen laughing with her girlfriend about Caitlyn's injury, displaying a complete lack of empathy. This is especially troubling considering Nalissa is a professional athlete, someone who should know better. For Caitlyn, these actions go beyond hurtful. They suggest that her injury, something she didn't deserve, has become a source of amusement for some of her own teammates and competitors. This is a glaring issue for the WNBA, as the league is supposed to foster a spirit of support and unity, yet Caitlyn is dealing with the exact opposite. What's even more concerning is the fact that players like Nalissa and Carrington, who should be elevating the game, are actively undermining Caitlyn. In a league where teamwork should be the foundation, this hostile environment only serves to tear players down.
It doesn't matter what Nalissa Smith does. She can go out and mock our meal ticket, the best player in the league, the person that's making us
animosity she faces from her own peers. Sadly, this isn't a new issue for Caitlyn. The frustration and hostility she faces have been a part of the WNBA for some time, and Caitlyn has had to shoulder the weight of this toxic atmosphere. Instead of being supported by the Indiana Fever, her own team, Caitlyn has faced challenges that go beyond what should be expected in professional sports. Instead of rallying around Caitlyn, who was clearly the victim of a physical injury, the Indiana Fever seemed indifferent. They failed to publicly defend her or even acknowledge the situation in a meaningful way.
Been impacting the WNBA well before this year. This is not a new thing. Sure. This is, and in that way, I do think Caitlyn's being used as a pawn. Caitlyn didn't bring citizens to the WNBA.
If Caitlin Clark had been hurt and 2 players from another team, let's say 2 white girls, made a video mocking her injury, what do you think the reaction would have been? Let's be honest, we all know the response would have been very different. For Caitlyn, this must have felt like a betrayal. Not only were her efforts sidelined, but her own team seemed more interested in celebrating the achievements of other players rather than protecting one of their star athletes. This situation raises important questions about the internal dynamics of the team. If a player like Caitlyn, who's brought so much attention and value to the WNBA, isn't getting the backing of her teammates and coaching staff, it points to a deeper issue. A team should create a supportive bond that lifts players both on and off the court, but here, Caitlyn's teammates and staff have remained silent or focused on other players.
I think it's funny. Could you imagine if it was the roles were reversed? If Caitlin Clark, 2 white girls made a video mocking it, what the reaction would be? I mean, let's just be honest. I don't want to go what about Favre, but what about Favre?
And contributions aren't valued as they should be. The lack of support Caitlyn faced isn't just about one incident, it speaks to a much larger problem within the team culture. For any athlete, especially someone as talented as Caitlyn, feeling isolated and unprotected by your own team can be emotionally draining. And then there's the point made about Caitlyn's potential future with the WNBA. What if top players like Paige Beckers hadn't missed 2 seasons with injury? Would we even be talking about Caitlyn the same way we are now? That kind of uncertainty can shake a player's confidence and lead to feelings of alienation, impacting performance and overall happiness within the league. This lack of support forces Caitlyn to question whether staying with the Indiana Fever and in the WNBA is the right path. After all, why would she stay in an environment where her own team doesn't seem to have her back? This situation only adds to the reasons Caitlyn might consider a move to Europe. In Europe, she'd likely earn more money and face less hostility from opposing players. More importantly, she might find herself in a team environment where she's treated with the respect and support that any star player deserves. Caitlyn's lack of support from the
UConn team isn't healthy, and that's a true statement.
That's not. That's wrong, Molly.
Monica,
that's wrong, Molly. Molly,
like
it's excuses.
5 top players,
it's excuses,
am I right?
Molly. It's excuses.
Major injuries.
You would not be saying that if it wasn't UConn.
Major stars not playing.
Listen, excuse me.
Go.
It's her against Caitlyn Clark.
Stephen A.
Ain't no excuses.
Stephen
You
A.
got there.
Wait a
No,
minute.
don't want to hear that now.
Stephen A.
Let me tell you, if
Paige
Georgetown gets back in the mix, I'm going to be insufferable. I'm just telling you that now.
What?
If Paige Beckers didn't basically miss 2 seasons, I don't know if we'd...
Indiana Fever could be the final push that sends her overseas. The noise surrounding her rise to stardom has been loud, with some critics trying to downplay her achievements. They ask, what about the women who came before her? But the work and impact of those who paved the way for Caitlyn's success should never be diminished. Her rise doesn't take away from the legacy of those who came before her, it adds to it. However, the focus now needs to be on Caitlyn's journey and how the WNBA has failed to give her the support she needs. The WNBA has always struggled to compete with other major sports leagues, and losing someone like Caitlyn, someone who can draw in new fans, could be devastating for the league. There's a real concern that Caitlyn's move to Europe could set a dangerous precedent. If one of the league's biggest stars can leave for better opportunities abroad, what's stopping other top players from doing the same? The WNBA could find itself in a situation where its best talent is playing overseas, leaving the league with fewer stars to attract fans and attention. Caitlyn's departure could be the tipping point for the WNBA, potentially.
They tried to minimize her, saying, well, you giving her all this credit. What about the women that came before her? What the women came before her, what they did cannot be taken away. That ain't got nothing to do with Caitlyn.
Progress in building the league. It's not just about Caitlyn. We saw a drop in attendance and viewership when her team was eliminated from the playoffs. People want to see the stars, and without them, the league faces a real challenge in maintaining its growth. Angel Reese, DJ Carrington, and Asia Wilson all know this. Losing the league's biggest stars could spell trouble for the future of the WNBA. Caitlyn Clark's decision to sign with a European team could have long-lasting consequences. The WNBA has spent years trying to build its fan base, increase viewership, and establish itself as a major player in professional sports. Caitlyn was one of the key figures helping drive that growth. Her presence on the court brought in fans who might not have otherwise tuned into WNBA games.
Caitlyn.
I know when they got eliminated from the playoffs, the attendance dropped, the ratings dropped. If the WNBA is more, it is, and I get it. Why aren't people?
Caitlyn Clark is becoming a game changer for the sport, but instead of support, she's faced with constant criticism. No matter what she does, it's never enough. Some WNBA players are upset over her big contract offer from a European team, thinking they deserve bigger paychecks themselves, despite having longer careers in the league. The game is tough, and Caitlyn is helping to elevate the league. But at the same time, it's clear she can't be treated like a rookie forever. The reality is, Caitlyn's move to Europe could change everything for the WNBA. As the highest-paid player in the game, she will finally get the recognition she deserves, in a league that values her skill.
Been calling for the equality, and now that there is the chance for them to start getting paid more because the exposure's up. Because it's her, you have people like, what's her name, Jamelia Hill or what? I can't stand her. Yeah. You got these women who are coming on here and they're saying it's...
Let's face it, basketball quality has evolved, but for years, the WNBA has struggled to get the attention it deserves. Even legendary players like Cheryl Swoops had their own signature shoes but still couldn't draw the crowds. So, why should Caitlyn stay in a league where even her own teammates are turning on her? After the news about her possible move, Caitlyn's teammate, Nalissa Smith, was seen laughing with DJ Carrington over a viral incident where Caitlyn was poked in the eye. Instead of standing by her teammate, Nalissa didn't show any support. This kind of treatment leaves Caitlyn isolated, even within her own team. When people saw Smith and Carrington mocking Caitlyn, it raised serious questions about the team's loyalty. Caitlyn's team didn't come to her defense. Instead, they posted highlights